All right, Assalamu alaikum everybody. We are live and let's start off with today's class. So basically, in the last class, which was on Friday, I guess, yeah, we had a pretty comprehensive sort of discussion on calculating file sizes. So all the way from discussing what binary is to where binary might be used to what the other number systems are, how to represent those number systems, and all that stuff. We finally came to the discussion of how your binary or your computer stores text files, sound files, and images, right? And then in the very end of the last class, I discussed the concept of how you can calculate the file size alongside discussing the multiple sort of data types, right? But if you guys remember, I even shared this with you last night, that in the last class, that we would be doing some past paper questions. Even though if you don't get the concept right now, you don't need to worry. We basically had a look onto these two equations. We saw that if I have to calculate the file size, the formula which I would be basically implementing is image resolution, which would be in pixels, multiplied by the color depth, which is supposed to be in bits. Okay, and that's going to be your size of file. And this would give you an answer in terms of what? It's going to give you the answer in terms of bits, right? And then we're going to convert it and so on. So we will be doing some past paper questions so that you guys could understand how to implement it the right way. So ये so परेशान नहीं होना, सब अच्छे से हो जाएगा इंशाल्लाह, अल्लाह खैर करेगा. And apart from that, we also studied this other equation, which was to calculate sound file size. Now, I really want to emphasize on this point that your IGCSE or O-level computer science examinations are rarely testing calculating sound file size. Say this is rarely tested. But it's really important that you are well aware of it, because if I'm not wrong, back then when I was preparing, there was one question which came up asking how do you calculate the sound file size. See, so इस तरह के questions आपके पास आ सकते हैं. And even in this, if you want some practice, you can open up your book, say Harder Education वाली book, and in that there is one question given. You can just have a look at that, and you can expect a similar question to pop up. So let's do these few past paper questions, and then we can also solve that book wala question. So before moving on, can all of you kindly confirm if you guys are with me and start Karle? Perfect. All right. So let's start off. So we will be first of all looking into this one question from I don't know what year. Let me see what year it was, but I guess it was the summer 2024 session. Yes, summer 2024 session. And in the first part of this, what do we call it, paper, it's asking us to talk a bit about the file sizes. So how can your file be stored, bits, bytes, and all that stuff. So the first part says that data can be measured in bits. Okay, I get that. Give the name of the data storage measurement that is equal to 8 bits. So while we had the last class, we studied this one thingy that 8 bits is basically equal to 1 byte, right? So we're just going to be copy pasting the same thing, and we would be writing byte up here. So 8 bits is basically equal to 1 byte. So we're going to write a byte up here. Then it basically says that in terms of perfect, and in terms of a kibibyte, how many bits are there? So yes, and you are correct. So the answer to this is basically you need to tell that if I have a kibibyte, how many bits are there? So we first need to figure out how many bits are there in one. What do we call it? How many bits are there in one kibibyte, right? So it's gonna be, what do we call it? You look up here, and it's written that 1 kibibyte basically has 1024 bytes. Say 1024 bytes. But because the question is saying that you need to give us the answer in bits, right? Not in bytes. We need to further convert this 1024 bytes into bits too. So it's more or less, you can assume that we are basically going from kibibyte to first bytes. And then we need to go from bytes to bits, right? So if I want to go from kibibytes to byte, this basically means 1024. And then definitely, because we are aware that 1 byte basically includes 8 bits, we're going to multiply this with by 8. And so my final answer is basically going to be 8,192 bits. So if you want to memorize this, you can also memorize it. This is something which is, you can assume that this is one sort of value which the examiner always sort of tests you on. But otherwise, you should be aware of the methodology behind it. That why do we get 8,192? Because it's not necessary they always give you this. There is a possibility what if they say how many bits are there in 0.5 kibibyte. So you should be aware 0.5 kibibyte would basically mean 1024 multiplied by 8 multiplied by 0.5, right? Or you can say this 1024 divided by 2 at the first place multiplied by 8. So you should be aware of all these questions, and these are only going to be mastered once you start doing practicing. So now looking forward to part C, it says that give the name of the data storage measurement that is equal to 1024 GB bytes. So this is a pretty good question because it's directly going back to the same table which I created that day. It's saying what's the name of the data measurement, what do we call it, what's the name? What was the question? Data storage measurement, which is equal to 1024 GB bytes. So 1000 GB byte is equal to 1 TB byte, right? So again, this is something you would memorize, and it's something once you start practicing, it's going to be learned on your own. So इसमें कोई परेशान नहीं होना कि रट्टा या कुछ. It's pretty much very straightforward. So, yeah, so this answer is 1 TB byte. Now comes the main question regarding file size. It says that a 16-bit color image has a resolution 512 pixel by wide by 512 pixel high. And we are asked to calculate the file size in kilobytes. Now, what are the important things up here? So when you get a question related to calculating file size, you are required to first of all highlight what's the screen resolution. So in this question, you need to understand that when we were defining screen resolution, we said that it's the number of pixels in the vertical direction by the number of the pixel in the horizontal direction, remember? And we said that we basically multiply these two to get the total number of pixels. So based on that, we can see that this is basically my number of pixel, or my resolution, 512 multiplied by 512, right? No, not only 512. No, I'm not sure if you're giving the final answer though, but the number of resolution, the screen resolution is basically 512 multiplied by 512. It's basically the multiplication or the product of both the sides. So we have a 512 up here and a 512 up here. And because we have this whole screen, it's going to get multiplied for the whole to get the final answer. Then we need to know the number of bits or the color depth. So you see it clearly states 16-bit color image. So we have those two values which are required to calculate the answer, right? Because they say the formula is image resolution, which is basically in pixels, multiplied by the color depth, which is basically in bits. And this should be giving me the answer. But the thing is, because we have the bit color depth in terms of bit, the color depth in terms of bit, how do I know it's in terms of bit? Because it's written up here bit. The answer to this question will be also in bits. Okay, so when I apply the formula, I'll be getting my answer in terms of bits. How? Because I can figure it out through here, right? But now the important point here to note is that the question asks us to give the answer in kilobyte. So this means we need to go from bits to firstly bytes, and then from bytes we need to basically convert to kilobytes. Now, how would I be doing this? So let's just plug in the values into the formula to get to know whether we are doing it the right way or not. So it's basically 512 multiplied by 512, which is basically my screen resolution, multiply by 16, right? And this would give me the answer in what? In bits. Now, usually in exam, they give you a pretty straightforward, like if they asked you to give us the answer in terms of like KBs, not kilobyte. So you all are aware that kilobyte has the notation of 1000, right? So we would have divided it with 1000. But because it is saying kilobyte, we need to divide it with 1024. But now you might be saying, sir, hamare paas to calculators hi nahi hote. How will we be doing such complex calculations? So remember, there is a proper approach to doing such questions. Say there is a shortcut behind these questions. And what's the shortcut? The shortcut is pretty much very straightforward. Isme karna hi hai ki you basically have to first of all write the whole values up here, and you're going to see automatically somewhere in there the values are going to be reduced on its own. It's going to cancel out. So you don't have to do those longer calculations like 512 into 512. This is not required. You need to write the whole logic, and you're going to see that values automatically detect. So like this gives me the answer in bits, right? So if I have to convert it into bytes, what will I be doing it? I would be basically dividing the answer by 8, right? So if I like 100 bits and I want to convert it into bytes, this means I need to convert to 100 by 8, right? So this 100 by 8 gives me the answer in terms of byte. So firstly, I would be dividing this answer by 8. Okay, makes sense. Then this is going to get me the answer in bytes, but I need the answer in what? In kilobytes. This means I would be further dividing this answer, whatever this 100 by 8 answer is, with again 1024. So now if I have to write both of this division in a single step, I can say that it should be divided by 8, and I could also write it 8 over 1024. It's the same thing. If I get this answer and then again divided with 1024, I could sort of write it in a singular step as 512 into 512 into 16 over 8 into 1024, right? So now if you look up here, it's pretty easy. How? We just need to simplify. And wo kaise hoga? So you just need to cancel up this 512 is basically twice of 1000, is basically 1 times of 1024. So if we do this, this goes out and this becomes 2. Then I see that the 8 ones are is basically twice of 16, right? And then 2 and 2 is left. So if I write it up here like this, 512 into 2 divided by 2, I can see that because it's being multiplied, I can cancel them off. And my final answer comes up to be as 512. So without using any mathematical application, I get my answer as 512 KB, which is 100% correctly stated by Inaya at the first place. So the point here to note is that usually in exam, students are very much scared from approaching such question, especially when they see the word kibibyte, because kibibyte or maybe byte or GB byte, they include the notation of 2 raised to power something, which means you would be dividing or multiplying by 1024. But now if you had to do it the other way around, 512 multiplied by 512, this might have been still straightforward. Let's say I had a value like 5478652, right? And I had to divide this by 1024. You would have literally spent the whole time just doing this one calculation. And the examiner is not there to confuse you. Remember, I always say this, the examiner is there to support you. So if there is a longer calculation involved in any of those questions, you should be clearly aware that the examiner might have had some other approach to this question, which would have been simpler. इतना वो आपको strict तरीके से नहीं लेकर जाएगा, सही? So like you see up here, what we did was we got the final answer in one variable. So we did like everything, 512 into 512 into 16. This gives me the answer in bits. I divide this answer by 8 to get it in terms of bytes. So I'm just going to be writing divided by 8 up here. And because I need the answer in kibibyte, I would be again dividing this by kibibyte. So I would be again dividing this by 1024. And so if I write both of them in denominator, they get basically multiplied. And I just did basic calculation and I get the answer as 512. Now, before moving on, I want every one of you to quickly answer this or perhaps tell me in the chat box, did you get the logic behind what we are trying to do up here or not? Because if it's not clear, let me know so that I could repeat it. This is really something which examiner does love testing. Say that's great to know, Hassan. Inaya and Aliza, is this clear or not? Perfect. Inaya, great. Kudos to everyone. All right, so let's move on. We have done one of the 3 questions which we are supposed to do, inshallah. So now going on to question number 4. This one is basically from your winter 2021 or October, November 2021. And it's sort of the similar, it has a similar nature of the question. It says that Georgia is a wedding photographer. Okay. So she wants to store 10 photographs on a USB flash memory drive for a customer. Okay. And each photograph is 100 pixel wide and 50 pixel high. Now what's this? This is basically my screen resolution. So I got my screen resolution up here. Makes sense, perfect. Then it says that the photograph are 8-bit color photograph. This gives me my color depth in terms of what? It's bits. Now this is very important. I hope I get that question. इसके अंदर ये byte के अंदर given है. Okay, I want to see and I want to emphasize that you see that here we are dividing this with 8 just because this was in bits. So if ever in exam they give you the question and they say that a 3-byte color depth was used, 3-byte, right? Rather than bits, they write the word byte. This means that when you multiply it, you won't be getting the answer in bits. You are automatically getting the answer in byte. We would be doing one question about this later on, but just keep this in mind. Say, because this is in bits, the answer when we plug in these values into the formula is going to be in terms of bits too. So we need to basically see that what's the total file size again in kilobytes. Now, the fun part here is that it's not saying kibibytes. There was a difference between this question and this one. Here it is kibibyte. Kibibyte is basically 1024. But up here it's kilobyte. So kilobyte is the normal notation. So like 1 kilobyte includes 1000 bytes. And now doing calculation in terms of 1000 division or multiply by 1000 is basically fairly way more easier. So doing this is not that challenging. It's going to be very much straightforward. Now let's look into the question. It's basically saying, okay, you need to calculate the total file size. And for this calculation, you may use the unit of measurement of 1024 or 1000. Now, because this paper is from 2021 and it's before the syllabus update in 2023, they gave you the permission to use either of them. But in those latest exam papers, you would be basically looking up at question terminology in terms of the specific data type they are expecting from you. So if it is something like kilobyte, megabyte, terabyte, petabyte, then you need to use the 1000 notation. But if it's asking you in terms of kibibyte, mebibyte, gibibyte, so in that scenario, you need to give the answer in terms of 1024 terminology. Say, बहुत जरूरी है ताकि आप लोग ये mess up ना करो. So now we need to be basically just plugging in the values. So the formula was what? You need to multiply, get the screen resolution, or I can write it up here, screen reso in terms of pixel multiply by the color depth. So yeah, so let's just plug in the values. It's going to be 100 multiplied by 50 multiplied by 8. So when I calculate this, I would be getting the answer in terms of bits, right? So because I need the answer in kilobytes, I would be dividing this first with 8, and this would give me the answer in what? This would give me the answer in bytes. So let's calculate this. 8 will be cancelled with 8, and I get the answer as 5,000, right? So 5,000 bytes. But now the question says that you need to give us the answer in kilobytes. So now if I want to go from bytes to kilobytes, what am I going to be doing? I would be dividing this with 1,000, right? So if I divide 5,000 by 1,000, you're going to see that I get the answer as 5. So my final answer to this question is 5 kilobytes. So you could write 5 kilobytes. 5 नहीं बनेगा. रुको. I guess I'm missing upon something. It's 100 into 50. Okay. Acha, my bad. It's going to be 50,000. Yeah, it's going to be 50,000. Bilkul. So it's going to be 50,000 divided by 1,000, and it's going to give me the answer 50 kb. So another shortcut could be you could directly cancel out these zeros. So ये 3 0 in 3 के साथ cut off हो गया, and you get the answer as 50 kb. And so you could write the answer as 50 up here. But now if the question clearly asked you to give the answer in terms of kb byte, तो उस सिनेरियो में you would have dealt it in a way कि 100 into 50 करते into 8 करते divided by 8 करते, and then whatever the answer was, like 50,000, you would have divided 50,000 by 1,024. So your answer would have been 49 point something. Okay, so 49 point something. Now the actual answer is basically this. But just for the simplification purposes, examiners do allow you sometimes to use this, but that's only when they clearly mention कि आपने इस terminology में answer देना है. This is really important because students are sometimes unable to figure out, sir, कब 1024 करना है, कब 1000 से करना है. So look up at the data type in which they are expecting you to give the answer. That's the greatest hint. सही है? Now continuing, but sir, 50 multiplied by यार 5 की बनते हैं. रुको, let me 50 into 100. Yeah, it's 5,000. Ruko. I messed it somewhere. It should be 5,000 and into 8 into just a minute. Ruko. Yeah, you're correct. It's going to be 5,000. So I get 5,000 bytes, and then I should be dividing this with 1,000, and my answer should be 5 kb bytes. Yeah, it's going to be 5. My bad. Made a mistake up there. So it's going to be 5 kb. Thank you. Again, reason being कि आपने बस वही methodology use करनी है कि you multiply screen resolution with the color depth. Oh, okay. One important point. Yeah. One important point. Yes, exactly, Hassan Abdullah. Bilkul, you're saying. You have 10 photographs. So this is of one image. Okay, this is of one image. 5 is of basically one image. And so you need to get it for 10 photographs, right? So we need to calculate the total file size. Now, this is the type of question in which examiner might confuse you. So 5 into 10 is basically 50. So you get the final answer as 50 kb. Okay, yeah, perfect. So if I was at your place and I would have missed this 10 photograph wali logic, I might have lost one. I might have like gotten 2 marks maybe up here, maybe even 1. Say, but if you would have received basically, agar aap ye na multiply karte, you would have received the answer as maybe 2 out of 3. Say, so you could have lost like 1 mark for an easy question. तो इस तरह की गलती avoid करने के लिए it's really important that you look up at the question and you clearly highlight and take up a pencil with yourself, and like it's something which I also do. Whenever I look up at a question, I basically underline, or maybe like if I have a pencil, I underline it, or I would advise you to do the same too. कि कोई भी इस तरह important point है उसको underline करो ताकि आपको याद है. Okay, equal to 8 bits. So 8 bits, 1 byte. So इस तरीके से अपने लिए hints बनाओ. Say that's really helpful. Coming to the last question, this is again from, I don't know, some paper. This was basically summer 2019. Okay, so this is basically from May-June 2019, and we would be now looking into this one question again related to file size, and it's just going to be implementing the same formula which we studied earlier on. So they're saying that you need to basically calculate the file size, but now you see उधर भी यही भी यहाँ पे भी वही चीज हुई. They need to store 10 8-bit color images. So 10 images. Say 10 images, and the color depth is basically what? 8, and the image resolution is 500 into 300 pixel height. So screen resolution is basically 500 x 300, and now we need to calculate the total file size in megabytes. So let's do it first for one picture and then multiply it with like what do you call it 10 to get the total file size, because it's saying total file size. Yeah? So remember, this total word is really important, because if it clearly mentioned that you need to calculate the file size for one image, तो फिर आपने 10 से multiply नहीं करना होता. Say it might be possible examiner might give you the word you need to like 10 8-bit images, but they ask you to calculate the size for one image. To multiply nahi karna. Do read the question in the right way so that you do not get confused in between. Say so now we're going to be basically looking up here, and the formula would be what? It's going to be the screen resolution. So 500 into 300, and that is getting multiplied with the number of bits, which is 8. Because this is going to get me the answer in bits, I will be basically dividing this with 8. Now usually in your books or maybe in school they might have told you जो बेटा जब भी आपका आंसर जो भी आ रहा है उसको divided by 8 कर लो. That divided by 8 is not part of the equation. It's just because वो आपको bits से जब byte में आपको जाना पड़ता है, so that requires you to divide by 8. So you should be well aware of every step that is being taken in any formula, any equation, anything in computer science. And I personally love answering questions. So if there is any single step or minute thingy which you do not understand as to why we are doing it, ये formula derive क्यों हो रहा है, क्या logic है इसके पीछे, just let me know. सही है? Even if I'm not aware, I would look it up for you guys so that we could explore computer science in the right way. सही है? Computer science is not a difficult subject. I'm repeating and repeating again and again, emphasize on this. It's just that you understand it in the right way, and inshallah getting a distinction is not that big of a deal. I'm telling you, inshallah. So now we have this, and so if I simplify this, I get the answer as 500 into 300 bytes. So let's do this calculation. Because this is easier, 500 into 300 is basically what? You do 0, 0, 0, cross 0, 0, 0, cross and cross 0, 0, and this 5 is 15. Okay, so I get the answer as 150000, right? So this many bytes, 150000 bytes. But now I need to convert this into first kilobytes, or sorry, kilobytes, so divided by 1000. So I'm going to be dividing this with 1000 firstly, tongue, and these three go zeros, and I'll get my answer as 150 kilobytes. But now it's asking in megabytes, so I would have to divide it again by 1000, right? So 1000 se phir divide kiya, and so when you divide this again by 1000, you're going to see that this is going to go up there, and 15 by 15 by 100 is basically 0.15, and now 0.15 MB is basically the file size for one image, for a single image. But because the examiner asked you to give us the file size for like 10 images, we now need to multiply this 1.15 by 10 too. So my final answer is going to be 1.5 MB. To be precise, this is my final answer. And now why didn't I divide by 1024 up here? Just because the question clearly asked us to give an answer in megabyte. But now it's up to me if I wanted to use 1024 doable, but जहाँ पे megabyte है तो अपने लिए जिंदगी मुश्किल ना करो, just go with the normal way and you would be very much good to go. Now these were just 3 past paper questions I wanted to discuss with you so that you guys have a good idea of how to do the questions. I just give me a minute so that I could bring up that one question from the book related to calculating the sound size. See, so ये कर लेते हैं. See, so this is one question which was up there. So अब करते किस तरह? This is by the way a bit complex too. इतने complex terminology values usually test नहीं होंगी, but just for your own sake of understanding the topic, in exam they might tell you that there is an audio CD which has a sample rate of 44/100 and a sample resolution of 16 bits. The music being sampled uses 2 channels to allow for stereo recording. Calculate the file size for a 60 minutes recording. So if a question like this pops up in your exam, you just need to basically again plug the values into the equation which is up here. Your sample rate in hertz multiplied by sample resolution into length of sample. So if we plug these values, you're going to see that, okay, we first of all have 44,100 as the sample resolution, sample rate, multiplied by the resolution is basically 16 bits. And because again, this is in bits, so I will be getting the answer as bits, right? It won't be byte. Yes, Hassan, do you have a question? You can send it in the chat. Sir, how would we convert, let's say, 12 kilobytes into megabytes? Kilobytes into megabytes. Usually it's not like kilobyte to megabyte. It's like kilobyte to megabyte. So I think you followed that kilobyte, megabyte, terabyte, and petabyte with the conversion convention, or you go with like megabyte, kilobyte, gigabyte, petabyte, and so on. So अगर तुम्हारा question ये है कि sir, what if we have 12 kilobyte? And we need to convert 12 kilobyte into megabyte. So you just need to divide this by 1000. So 12 by 1000. So you get the answer as 0.012 megabyte. And if it was basically kibibyte and you wanted to convert 12 kibibyte into, let's say, mebibyte, so it would have been the same thing. You would have basically divided 12 with 1024, but because you don't have a calculator, such क्वेश्चंस आर नॉट टेस्टेड जिसके अंदर आपको बहुत ज्यादा नेक्स्ट लेवल मैथ्स लगानी होगी, सही है. बट आई होप दिस आंसर्स योर क्वेश्चन. डज इट? If not, to bol do. So we won't get something like 12 kb. No, 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 no. See, you have two conventions. See? You have two conventions which I taught that day. You either have this one, which is basically the international, basically proper authorized convention of computer, which includes kibibyte, mebibyte, gbyte, tbyte, pbyte, right? And then there is this one normal one, nibble byte, nibble to chalo dono mein hoga, byte, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, terabyte, petabyte, exabyte. Say, so either they're going to be giving you this, jiske andar yahi values hongi, like this, or they're going to be giving you something जिसके अंदर ये होंगी. I haven't seen a single question till now जिसके अंदर वो आपको ये बोले कि यार 12 kibibyte है converted into megabyte, because वो तो आपकी convention change होंगे. It's the same way I tell you that, bro, let's say if I say that I can speak Pashto, okay, so yeah, I can speak Pashto, and then up there I say that there is someone from Lahore who speaks Punjabi, right? Even though both of us are speaking the same, saying the same sentence, maybe I say, okay, I'm hungry, and I say that in Pashto, and then the other person says that in, what do we call it, Punjabi. So even though the sentence is same, even though we meant to say the same thing, are they the same thing? No, right? So if I want to communicate with the other person, given that I don't know how to speak Punjabi, I won't be able to basically have the connection being built up between the two figures, right? Either I have to learn Punjabi ताकि Punjabi हो सके, or the other person has to learn Pashto so that they could speak with me indirectly Pashto, right? So Pashto. So इसी तरह whenever a question is going to come up in exam, they would be giving you one convention. Either kibibyte, mebibyte, gibibyte वाले question होंगे in which you need to convert आपस में ही, so using 1024 logic. Or the other way around, you would be given another question in which basically they might be testing you on the normal convention. So like kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, gigabyte, petabyte, and all that. So उसमें आपने 1000 से divide करना है. So there won't be a interchangeably conversion जिसके अंदर like gigabyte to gigabyte जानना हो. At least I haven't seen a question like this, so I don't think so it would be tested. सही है? Now is it clear? Perfect. Chalo, now going back to the question which we were discussing up here. So now we have this in terms of bits. यहाँ तक हमने कर लिया. Okay, clear हो गया. Answer is going to be bits because this is in bits. And now we need to basically multiply this with the length of sample. And it's important that it's in seconds. Now, why is it important? Because it's said that 60 minutes. So 60 minutes में कितने seconds होते हैं? 60 multiplied by 60, right? So 3600 seconds. So we could just do 60 into 60. Now this calculation, no doubt, is very complex. In exam, they won't give you such a complex one. ये बस वैसे examiner ने book में एक question के तौर पे दिया. So you don't, what do we call it, think कि यार exam में इतने बड़े complex values आएंगे. How are we going to do it without calculator? So in exam, if a question comes up, it's going to be very much either straightforward or it's going to be something which involves cancelling terms. So yes, अगर आपको कहीं लग रहा हो कि this is complex or this is becoming complex, do understand that you should just write the whole thing out and it's going to cancel out somewhere in between. समझ गए? So now let's do it. And शायद ये भी कहीं पे cancel हो रहा हो, but this might not be because we have these values, so हम directly plug in करेंगे. So this is going to give me the answer in bits. Now they asked me to give me the answer in, let's say they're calculating it in mebibyte, right? So हम भी इसी logic पे चल जाएंगे. But there is one important thing, that this was something जो मैंने original formula में नहीं भी लिखा. But when the question says that you are using 2 channels to allow for stereo recording, or if the question says somewhere that you need to calculate the file size for a studio, remember, whenever they say studio या फिर maybe 2 channels, studio, or maybe 2 channels, this basically means that you need to multiply this with 2. So it's sort of, you can say कि आप एक file size के लिए calculate करो, but because it's a studio and studio has multiple sort of instruments, there is a possibility कि आपकी एक file size तो होगी, and then maybe you have the other similar file which could have the similar file size, but it caters to the other thingies, right? So maybe agar main sirf vocals ga raha hu, that might be of one thing, but the similar file size might be of the guitar at the back, or maybe some other instrument to maybe further clarify my audio, right? So jab mere paas two channels aate, so it's important that whenever you get answer to this point, you need to multiply that with 2. So up here you would be looking up here that we get the answer in terms of bits as this much, and then you basically multiply it by 2. So because you're having two channels, and so when you do this, you get the answer as this much in bits. Now you're basically going to divide this by 8 to get the answer in bytes, right? So when I divide it with by 8, you're going to see that I get this in terms of bytes. And now when I want to divide this by byte, I need to divide this figure first by 1024 and then again by 1024. So like if I do it 1024 and then again divided by 1024, so you can say that I could also have divided it directly with 1024 into 1024, just the way we did earlier on. And ye bhi dekho, this results in this answer. So when you do it somewhat over a calculator, itni complex aapke usme nahi aayenge. Again and again repeating this is really important. But if a question comes up, aapne isse divide, then you're going to get the final answer in 605 MB. Now the question is, why are we using MB? Everyone in the chat box answer, why are we writing MB and not MB? Why not MB? Why not? Why am I using MB? Everyone in the chat box, quickly. There should be some logic or maybe some hint जिससे मुझे पता लग रहा हो कि यार why am I supposed to, like, अच्छा I do know कि यार उसने मुझे वो किए, apart from this point कि यार maybe byte है, where in this whole calculation am I getting to know कि यार the answer should be maybe byte and not MB? So like I should write MIB up here, not MB. Quickly guys, any idea? MB, megabyte? No, not in terms of that. उस तरह नहीं बोल रहा, उस तरह नहीं बोल रहा. I'm saying कि यार देखो यहाँ पे maybe byte में लिखा है ना MIB, but usually we have also seen कि यार MB भी तो हो सकता है, so it could be 605 MB, but we wrote 605 MIB. Where in this whole calculation do I get to know कि यार ये मेरा आंसर MIB के फॉर्म में होगा या MB के फॉर्म में होगा? Like apart from this part, from where do I get to know कि यार my answer is going to be MIB या MB? Inaya, Aliza, Hassan, any idea? All right, no worries. Ab dekho, basically if you focus upon this, I said one thing, that whenever we are dealing with MB, तो हम division या कोई multiplication 1000 से करेंगे. But whenever I have to do and get the answer in MB, I would be dividing it with 1024, right? So अब यहाँ पे देखिए, what are we dividing it with? We are dividing it with 1024, which is a clear indicator that basically we are going to be giving the final answer in MB. So if this was like divide by 1000, multiply by 1000, so in that scenario, this would have not been 605 MB, it would have been 605 MB. Now is it clear? Basically, this is not something जो कि test होगा. It's just for your own understanding, so that you are well aware. जब भी हमने answer MB में देना है, you need to divide by 1024. And whenever you need to give the answer in terms of megabytes, so like अगर इसी question को मैं ऊपर आपको बोल देता कि bro, give me the answer in terms of MB. So if you had to give me the answer in terms of MB, it would have been something like this. So I would have done it in this way. It would have been, I would have done this calculation. So 44,100 into 16 into 60 into 60 multiply by 2 for two channels. And this is what have been an answer in bits. I would have divided this answer by 8 to get it in terms of bytes. And then because I wanted to go from bytes to maybe kilobytes, because I want to go from bytes to kilobyte, I would be dividing this with 1000 again, right? So 8 into 1000 मतलब division में फिर 1000 हो जाएगा. And then if I wanted to go again from kilobyte to megabyte, it would have been again division by 1000. So again 1000 से multiply हो जाए. So now because right now I'm dealing with 1000s and not 1024 up here, so my final answer would also be in terms of megabyte, which is basically the one which uses 1000 value notation. समझ गए? This is something just so that you have a small idea behind why something is happening and उसके पीछे क्या logic है. बाकी सब अच्छे से समझ आ जाएगा. So you don't worry. So it's not something very important, but it should be there in your mind. So all of you guys quickly in the chat box, are all these three questions followed by this one book question clear or not? Do you guys understand the logic behind how to calculate a specific file size and give the answer in a specific data type? So like MB, KB, GB, or maybe kilobyte, megabyte, and all that stuff. Notation nahi samajh aa rahi, so there is a possibility you might have missed that day's class. So once you watch that too, inshallah, you're going to fully understanding. And don't worry, you can watch these recordings later on, and we are also going to be covering up other questions once we cover up the topic and we do those topical questions, inshallah. तो उसमें भी हमें और question करने को मिल जाएंगे. Okay, that's great to know, Hassan. Aliza and Inaya, can you also please confirm if there is anything not clear? Just let me know. I'm again and again emphasizing questions in Eden. If you want to ace this exam, if you want to get that distinction, I'm repeating, getting a distinction is not difficult. I have a top in Pakistan distinction in IGCSE computer science, alhamdulillah, and I'm telling you, you just need to ask questions. Try to ask as many questions ताकि आपके ज़हन में doubt ना रहे कि यार why did this thing happen? When you answer all those whys, you're automatically going to perform really well. So if you're someone who might be thinking, yaar, hota hai aise, to it's not going to help you in comparison to someone who knows why something like this happens. So it's really important aap hamesha why ki piche chalte raho. So now we are done with this concept and we did enough practice. Now we would be basically going forward towards the last topic of our chapter number 1, which is basically going to be dealing with compression. So now what's compression? Compression is, if let's say I say that, bro, I I woke up and then I went on to my phone and I opened up YouTube and I saw that, okay, bro, there is this one game known as Red Dead Redemption 2. Wow, that's such a good game. But the problem is that my internet is pretty small and this game has a file size of, let's say, 65 GB. Now, if I want to download 65 GB, this might take like 30 days because I have a very slow internet. But my holidays are finishing in the next 15 days. अब मैं क्या करूँ, मैंने तो game खेलनी है, but I have less time. So at this point, मैं बोलता हूँ यार अब तो मैं क्या करूँगा, and I call Hassan and I'm like, Hassan bro, यार एक serious problem हो गया, I want to play these games and I cannot download it quick, and but यार मैं क्या करूँ यार, मुझे बताओ. Hassan is like, bro, don't worry, I have the file with me. I have the file with me. I have the file of 65 GB, but I know one mechanism of computer science. I know this one method. Just say I can convert this 65 GB wali file into, let's say, 15 GB. And remember, you had that small CD or USB in your home of 16 GB. तो मेरे घर आ जाओ, तुम ये 15 GB वाली file उसके अंदर डाल दो, and then you can take it to your home and play game. So what just happened? Hassan basically reduced the size of that large file into something small. This mechanism where you basically convert the file into something smaller without ensuring that the data is not lost, this is known as compression. So in compression, we will be basically exploring the concept of how you can basically reduce the size of a file for a specific reason. The mechanism behind, the mechanism behind reducing a file size for a specific reason. And now we need to first of all figure out what could be a specific reason behind compression. Like ek to maine ye dekh li ki okay, I want to play a game and I don't have fast internet. That might be one valid reason. But what apart from that? Tell me, let's say I say that I have, let's say, my O2, O3, AS, and A2 level study material on my laptop, and it's occupying, let's say, 20 GB. Say 20 GB. I don't want it to occupy this much space. बहुत ज़्यादा जगह ले रही है. What I can do is, यार मैं क्योंकि इसको बहुत rarely कर लेता हूँ, but I don't want to delete it, I can compress it. So it's the same compression which you might have studied in physics or chemistry. Compression basically means that if I have something big up here, so like for instance, I have a big uh, volume of gas, and I, let's say, press it towards something small, and I make it into this small space. So kahan pe itni jagah and kahan pe itni jagah. So it's occupying less space right now, right? So if I have a big file of 20 GB, by applying the compression mechanism, I'm basically making it smaller. So this 20 GB is going to become something like maybe 5 GB, depending upon how you compress it, right? And now this allows me to have more space on my computer. So I can say more space on my computer. Apart from that, I also told you earlier on कि अगर मैंने game वाली logic को देखना है, तो scenario में I'm getting the benefit that it's going to reduce the time taken to download, right? And just like that, you tell me, if I ask you to upload a specific game file onto WhatsApp, let's say WhatsApp पे आपने file upload करनी है, and that file is of like maybe 1 GB. Now 1 GB is way bigger in comparison to like 100 MB. So if I want to upload something and I use a compression mechanism जिससे उसकी size file छोटे हो जाए, तो it's going to be uploaded way more earlier, right? It's going to be uploaded faster. So I can also say that it reduces the time taken to not only download but also upload. So if I want to upload something on internet, and that's the reason why when you upload images on WhatsApp automatically without a file option or maybe without setting it as HD, it takes less time. Why? Because it basically compresses that picture. Now you might be saying, sir, quality भी तो lose हो जाती है. Now that's something we're going to come into discussion, inshallah, अगर time हो आज, otherwise tomorrow. सही है? So this basically what happens is हम उस file size को छोटा कर देते, which allows us to basically transmit it in a faster manner, right? And because उसका size ही छोटा हो जाता है. And उसके बगैर definitely one other benefit is that if I'm, let's say, using Zong, सही है, Zong sim, and I have, let's say, a package of 500 MB. Now, if I have, let's say, one image of, let's say, 100 MB, तो मैं कितने images भेज सकता हूँ? Let's say I want to send the note images to Aliza. Say, so if I have 100 MB size file of one image, this means I can maximum send 5 images. And after this, I would no longer be able to access my Instagram, right? Because internet का package ही खत्म हो गया. अब या तो मैंने package करानी या कोई scene करूँगा. अब तो यहाँ मैं बैठा रहूँगा, right? Now, what if I say, okay, bro, I have an idea. In I is like, sir, आप एक काम करें, इस 100 MB file को ना compress it, shrink it, and make this 100 MB file maybe, let's say, of 20 MB. And now you can like basically send the same 5 images, and it's going to take you only 100 MB. And you would have 400 MB left for other purposes. So you could use Insta or maybe even play games. So what logic did we just apply? The benefit behind why compression might be helpful here is that compression up here allows me to basically reduce the cost. So I can say that a reduced cost. And why? Because reduced cost, because lower bandwidth utilized, and so internet service providers or ISPs would charge low. It's the same thing if I say कि यार मैंने सिर्फ package कराना है for sending you guys notes. So rather than having a package जिसके अंदर मैं 1 GB का कराऊं, because the file is of 1 GB, I could do one thing जिसके अंदर मैं उसको compress कर लेता हूं, and I could do a package of 200 MB, उससे करा दूंगा. अब किधर 1 GB और मुझे let's say 100 रुपए का पड़ता है, 200 MB is barely going to cost me 20 rupees. So I'm saving costs, right? So one other benefit of data compression is that reduced file size also reduces cost. So like if you're using an internet service provider, it may charge a user based on the amount of data downloaded. Say so charges based on the amount of data downloaded. Amount of data downloaded. So in exam, you might be wondering, sir, इसके ऊपर question कैसे आएगा? So in exam, they might give you a scenario and they might ask you, why do you want to do compression? So like, what's the benefit of compression? So a benefit of compression में आपने ये सारे points इससे लिख देने कि you have more space, you might, oh my bad, oh उल्टा कर दिया. Can we reverse this somehow? Yeah, we can. Good. So इसको इधर ले आते हैं. So these are some logical benefits you guys should be aware of why I might be using compression. इसके बगैर भी you can also talk about how like if you want to stream something and you want to like upload something onto YouTube live, like you're doing gaming, तो उसके अंदर भी if your internet is low quality drop हो जाती है. Why? Because when you have a lower quality video, उसके size file छोटा हो जाता है, and so it's basically allowing you to fasterly or maybe in a higher pace upload the bits onto the internet website, right? So when you're streaming and you want to ensure कि यार आपकी faster streaming हो रही हो, lag ना आ रहा हो, so you basically compress the file. Now if your internet quality is good, quality drop नहीं होता, but if your internet quality is bad, it's going to worsen your quality, and that's the reason why when internet goes off and you're, let's say, streaming and your internet is not that strong, आपकी quality drop हो जाती है. So remember this one point, and we're going to be coming to this later on, inshallah, in upcoming topics too. So another point you can write up here, it reduces the time taken, reduces a time taken, reduces the time कर लेते हैं, reduces the time taken to stream a music or video file. So these are just file. Uh, a few points which I want you guys to know, so that in exam they ask you why should I be going with compression. So they might give you a scenario that, let's say, Hassan wants to upload something onto what do we call it, the internet, and he's planning on making use of compression. What are the benefits behind compressing his file? So आपने इस तरह के points बताने. It might take less time to stream the file, or it would be including reduced cost because lower bandwidth would be utilized. Or you could also talk about one other point, maybe यही lower bandwidth का अलग से भी कर सकते हैं कि when you basically upload, like अगर मैं ये बोलूँ कि आपके पास a package of 50 MBs is being used up in your home, and you're basically downloading a big file like 1000 GB wali. So a lot of internet is basically going to go to this computer. But if you also want to download, maybe let's say rather than downloading 1000 GB file, तो अगर आपने कोई और काम करना है उसके लिए internet performance might be low. आप लोग usually देखते भी होंगे कि when you are playing like let's say Fortnite or PUBG and someone is downloading a big file or uploading something, your ping automatically rises. Why? Because your bandwidth, this concept is known as bandwidth. Most of your internet power goes to the file which is of high importance, or the one which has a lot of file size. So आपके बाकी चीजों के लिए वो होता है नहीं, performance reduces. So if rather than I have a 1000 GB file, if I have, let's say, like a 50 MB internet हो, even the 50 MB is very strong, but let's say I have something like इसी 1000 को मैं 200 GB कर लेता हूँ. So you can see that in comparison to before, my performance is definitely going to increase. So you can also talk about this one point in your exam as a benefit, where you're going to talk about how basically the download upload process takes up network bandwidth, and that this is basically the rate of transfer of data. Say, so whenever a file is so like if a specific file contains fewer bits of data, so it's going to use less bandwidth. तो इसके ऊपर भी अगर आप logic करना चाहते हो, you can write it up. I can give you guys a hint up here. Compressed file, lower bandwidth, and bandwidth का क्या मतलब है? Number of bits required to transmit the file. Right? So we are good to go. So these are just few points. ये आपने ज़हन में अच्छे से रख लेना. So I want you guys to now quickly let me know in the chat box. आप लोग को ये समझ आई है? Why should we be implementing compression? What's the logic behind implementation of compression? And what is compression as general? Before we dive into the types of compression and what compression is altogether. Perfect, guys. Perfect. Hassan, is it clear? आप भी बता दो. If there is any question, you guys can literally just send them. Easy. Hassan, is it clear or not? Perfect. Okay. So now we have 12 minutes left. We won't be diving directly into the main concept, but we would be discussing the two types of compression. So we basically have compression as a general term. And now basically there are two ways of compressing a file. So ये so दो तरीके हैं जो हमने सीख लिए. And what are those three methods? So basically एक तो आपकी line यहाँ से आती है and it goes like this. एक आपकी line, oh yeah, थोड़ी ज़्यादा ही होगी. So we have one line like this and the other line is like this, right? And this one basically is going to be discussing, let me make it a bit neat, right? So this one arrow and this one arrow. So we have two types of compression in course. One is basically known as lossy compression. Say lossy compression. Let me write it up here. Lossy compression. And the other one is basically known as lossless compression. So even from the wording, you might have understood something. Lossy compression or lossless compression. Sir, lossless may be something related to जिसके अंदर आपको कोई loss ना हो रहा हो. Whereas lossy might be something which comes out from the word loss, right? So this means that your file is going to be losing something, right? And that is the main method or main idea behind lossy and lossless compression. So your lossy compression is the one जिसके अंदर once you reduce the file size, your data is lost. What do I mean by this? So let's say I say कि यार आपके पास ना एक WhatsApp पे image है. And if I don't turn on that HD option and I send the file directly to you guys on group, you're going to note that the quality is lost, right? Now you tell me, when you download that file or that image onto your phone, is the quality recovered? No, right? What happened? Even though the quality at the first place was very high, when I transmitted it through the WhatsApp channel, it's basically reducing the color bits, it's reducing the file data, and it's reducing the quality, the things which were resonating to the high quality of the image. इसको हम कल detail में करेंगे, but for now just get an idea, right? So we are removing those stuff जिसकी वजह से उसका file size छोटा हो गया, and so this means that the data is lost. Just like that, अगर एक high quality video है and I compress it by removing the effects from it, by reducing the colors effect, by reducing the color grading scale and all that stuff, so my quality is going to reduce, and as well my file size is also going to reduce. But now if I send it to you guys, आप लोग उसको original नहीं बना सकते, right? You cannot get the original file. So this means that whenever I implement lossy compression, it is going to reduce my file size, but it's going to lead to a scenario where data is lost and cannot be recovered, cannot be recovered. But in some scenario you might be saying, यार सर फिर ऐसी वाली मैं करूंगा ही नहीं जिसके अंदर recovered, जिसके अंदर सर data lose होगा. I would never be implementing this, but we're going to be looking into this tomorrow inshallah, and you're going to see okay, there are some scenarios where lossy compression is beneficial. And then in the other side, on the other side, we have a lossless compression in which data is never lost. Data is never lost. It's basically a model जिसके अंदर होता ही है कि यार rather than having the data being lost, why not do something which can allow me to figure out कि यार data था क्या है, हम उसको summarize कर लेते. Let's say maybe create a cheat code. So if I say that I have basically a picture like this, say, and this picture has one box of, let's say, yellow, yeah, two blocks is the yellow, okay, and then after that I have red, say, then beneath that I have like basically green, and then after that I have, let's say, three boxes of blue and one box of yellow again, and then finally last one is again the whole red. So if I divide this into 4 boxes and I want to write the basic color for each of that specific box, उसको लिखना काफी मुश्किल. Let's say I denote it simply with like every color को उसके letter से Y, yellow, red, green, blue, yellow, red. So like this might be, if I want to store it in computer memory, वो इस तरह इस colors को binary के form में लिख रहा होगा, right? So now what lossless compression does is कि वो इसमें comparison करके वो ये बोलते थे कि okay, let's not delete data, let's identify some key pattern and let's just summarize the whole thing into a smaller chunk. So why not say कि okay, we have, let's say, यहाँ पे ना हम इसको और भी वो कर लेते हैं, let's remove this yellow and इसको भी red कर देते, say for simplicity. And नीचे वाला was green, right? So yeah, just for the purpose of simplification. So अब यहाँ पे हमारे पास ये भी red हो गया. So now what's happening? You're going to see that, okay, I get the first element as yellow, and then I have 3 reds. So rather than writing R, I am just going to write it as 3R. Then I have 4 greens, green. Computer is like, okay, let's summarize it as 4G. Then I have blue, 3 blue. So 3 blue लिखने की जगह 3B कर लेते. Then 1 yellow, and then I have 4 reds, so 4R कर लेते. Now count this. This was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This was 16 होगा बल्कि 16, right? Now let's count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is 10. So we basically reduced it from 16 to 10. But now if I send this file to you guys and I share it to your computer, and now on your computer, if I ask even anybody of you, कि bro इसको आप original file में convert करो, can you guys do it? Yeah, very straightforward. इसमें क्या मुश्किल है सर? Easy बात है. आपने बोला पहला is yellow, then it says 3 red, so red. Then you're saying 4 green, so green. Then blue, 3 blue, so blue. 1 yellow, and then 4 red. And we get the exact same thing which we had up here. So our data in basically a lossless compression is never lost. But then lossless compression के अंदर, because we have to identify such patterns, it's also something जो कि हर जगह apply नहीं हो सकता. So मतलब मैं ये नहीं बोल सकता कि I am basically having a very important file, उसके ऊपर ना मैं lossless compression लगा लेता हूँ, या maybe I have a specific video जिसके ऊपर मैं lossless compression लगा दूंगा. It's only applicable in places where a pattern could be identified. So now, for now, just keep this in your mind, because कल की class में we're going to be basically exploring both of them in great detail. What do I mean by each of them? How are we basically recovering data from lossless compression? We're going to be discussing examples of them, and then we're also going to be looking into lossy compression. Lossy compression होता क्या है, किस तरह data recover नहीं होता, and all that stuff. I don't want to start it right now because we only have 5 minutes, and ताकि आप लोग को अच्छे से समझ आ जाए तो उसी में बेहतर होगी. And inshallah after this we are done with the whole chapter. So inshallah tomorrow we would be ending topic number 1, which means that inshallah ta'ala on Wednesday we would be Thursday inshallah. On Thursday we would be inshallah doing some past paper questions. So now when I say past paper questions, we would be exploring most probably 2023 ke question paper. Why? Because I uploaded one document. Perhaps let me open up Google Classroom so that I could explain that one whole thingy idea too. So आप लोग को उस चीज की भी समझ आएगी मैं बोलना क्या चाहता हूँ. So if you look up here, this is, I hope you all have the access to it now. Hassan and Aliza, you guys joined it, yeah. So अच्छी बात है. So now look up here. This is basically, I would recommend for the newer guys, if you guys are not aware, that you guys should use it on laptop. Laptop पे थोड़ा ज़्यादा better होता है. Even if you're using it on phone or maybe iPad or tablet, फिर इंश्योर करना कि आपके फोन के ऊपर Google Classroom is downloaded as an app and also Google Drive is downloaded as an app. क्योंकि video you is basically loaded in Google Drive. So if you don't have Google Drive downloaded, it might result in some errors. Say otherwise, I would recommend using a laptop, and you would be given access to Conceptuals के portal too, inshallah soon. So वहाँ पे भी आप देख सकते हो. But I recommend this one is more convenient for me. So if anybody wants to do those through this easier method, this is the way to go. Say so once you open the link googleclassroom.google.com, that's the link. You're gonna get a portal like this. आपको यहाँ पे classes main menu में आ जाएंगे. You're gonna just join the class and you're gonna see आपके इस तरह ये platform को open up हो जाएगा. You're gonna go to classwork section and here you're gonna find all the important thingies which we have covered till now. So we have the important documents which includes the digital notes. So you don't need to make these notes, the stuff which I'm preparing and teaching at this point. Over the weekend, when you want to revise it at this point, just get the concept because concept is really important. And बाद में जब भी आप weekend पे हो, जब भी हो, just open up this file and you're going to see that all the notes which I've made till this point are basically covered. So मैंने जो भी अभी तक पढ़ाया, so like if I want to go down there to page number, let's say 7, so this covers up binary to Denny. So you can later on make the notes easily. And alongside that, I also give you guys the date. Okay, at 12 December, I have updated them because I update them like every 3 to 4 days. So like now, once the chapter ends, then I finally update kar dunga, inshallah. And if you go beneath that, you're gonna find that okay, we have data representation chapter number 1, which includes all these topic videos, right? So all the way from topic number 1 to the video. So you're gonna see that आपने यहाँ पे करके, this was the demo classes वाले session. So you see यहाँ पे आपके पास सारी videos आ गई. Just gonna click on this and आपके पास इस तरह a new tab is going to get opened, and uske upar you're going to come up as here and you're going to just press this play button and you're going to see okay, video load up hogi, and you can watch it at 2x or 1.5x. And if you don't get it, I'm not sure if you guys get the summary. If you guys want, I can share these summaries with you too for quick notes, and this is pretty much very helpful though. मैं पहले तो कर रहा था, I'm not sure if you guys want it, I can do that with you guys to share it. Say apart from that, now coming back to the main thingy, so once your topic number 1 ends, you would be given an assignment section up here. Uske upar let me share this from the last session. So this was for October November वाला session. इसके अंदर कहाँ पे मैंने कराया था? I guess यहाँ पे कहीं एक section था where I was giving them quizzes and all that stuff. Let me see. Yeah, so test and worksheet. So you're going to be getting a test and worksheet section like this soon once the topic ends. And so you're just going to be like, okay, chapter number 2 hai. You will be given this one topical question, whatever it is. You just have to solve it. Just have to solve it. खुद करना है, AI खुद या marking scheme नहीं देखनी. Why? Because I want you guys to solve it on your own so that I could see how you're going to be writing the answers, right? So अब ये देखो यहाँ पे मैं जाता हूँ. And let's say I have this one student who might have completed the work, say. So now he shared this one. Let me show you guys the right way. So you have it up here and grades. And yahan pe, can I see it for Ahmed? Let's see. Okay, so you see, Ahmed ka is taraf view details. I'm not sure abhi kyun nahi aa raha, but he just assigned this one document कि उसके अंदर उसने अपना solution दिया. I marked it and then I provided them with the relevant feedback. Hey bro, question number 2, examiner expected this. And now this is really important because अब देखो, even though I gave him a mark in this question, I said that your sentence is pretty general and vague. A mark will be awarded as per me, but next time be specific. So now when I tell this, now the student now at this point has an idea कि okay, exam में मैंने इतना vague नहीं जाना. So the purpose of having these tests and quizzes is not to test you guys. It's just for the purpose कि यार आप लोग को अच्छे से समझ आ जाए कि okay, how do I need to approach a specific question? Now this is really important, and inshallah it's there for your own benefit. If you don't get any concept or anything, you all are well aware that you guys could reach out to me anytime, anywhere, through my Instagram, through my WhatsApp, through the community group, or maybe through our classes group, wherever convenient to you guys. And I would get back to you on whatever question you guys have. Say so it's 10 p.m. Do you guys have any question related to what we studied today, or anything else related to the whole course, or any such thing? Anything you want to ask or something? All right, perfect. Perfect, perfect. Hassan, everything good? कोई question या कुछ? Perfect. All right, guys. Then it's 10:01. Let's end the class for today here. See you guys inshallah tomorrow. Take care. Allah Hafiz. Bye bye. Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.